Oh, to hell with this, I'm going on break. Guess I'll always be a simple mudblood, but a mudblood with a comfortable seat at least. With that said, Wendy every which way. What can be said about this game? I don't know, but it has witches in it, so... maybe by playing it, I can become a better wizard in the process. I'm just lying to myself to ease the pain. Okay, for starters, this game was developed by Veonaut Technologies and published by TDK Interactive, that released on the Game Boy Color supposedly on September 30th, 2001, according to IGN. Because everyone trusts and likes IGN.
Sonic was never good.
And was a planned tie-in game for a show starring Wendy and her aunts, who appeared in the game in some form via the bonus screens. Possibly similar to Casper, but that's just me guessing. Still, for one reason or another, the show was cancelled, so the game is all that we got left of the concept. I recall hearing about this game via WayForward's Twitter, where during the WayForward 30th year anniversary, they mentioned how this was one of their earlier titles they worked on back in the day. Even Matt Bozon stated in an interview with Pocket Gamer about Mighty Flip Champs that the gameplay was an inspiration when developing the game. And even the inspiration for making Wendy was taken from an NES game called Metal Storm. Aside from that, this game hasn't been widely remembered aside from a couple of people who grew up with the game. And because I'm a fan of their work, I wanted to try and snag a copy. However, I cannot recommend looking for a physical. They can go for up to hundreds of dollars. I was somehow lucky to find a copy for close to $80 since it was a European copy. So while my cartridge might be tainted by the dreaded British, at least I can still play it since the Game Boy isn't region locked, and was much cheaper than most of the American copies sold on eBay. So if you really want a copy, your best bet is a European copy. So the question now is, was it worth the money? Kind of. You play as Wendy the Witch, who at the beginning of the game opens a chest releasing magic stones, causing a giant castle to crash nearby. Yeah, like that. So now Wendy has to go in and fix it by traveling through 4 worlds of sorts, each containing 3 levels and a bonus round, which is a flying shoot-'em-up like stage, used to get to the next set of levels, with them getting more difficult/puzzling till you reach the final and only boss, a dragon. Beat the dragon, the castle returns to the sky, and the stones return to the chest, ending the game, unless you're playing the game via Game Boy Advance, where you can access the Advance World. Oh wait, it's not Advance World, it's Advance World. My mistake. Anyways, the Advance World is pretty much this game's 3 special levels, which are much longer and puzzling. And that is pretty much it for this game. It's very short, and if you know what you're doing, you can finish this game in about an hour at most. And that's including the Advance World levels. Though, for as short as this game is, it's a rather unique and fun game. For starters, this game is a side-scrolling puzzle game, so it's simple, but how it goes about it is interesting. You move with the left and right side of the D-pad, jump with A, and shoot your shot with B, which can be upgraded with stars that are sprinkled around the level, with each star upgrading the power of your wand, with the max being 5. So without the stars, your shot is just a spark that doesn't travel that far, but the more you upgrade it, it can travel farther with the first and second star, become a fireball with the third one, split into 3 sparks on the 4th star, and ending with a triple fireball shot if you collect the 5th star. What is also nifty is that these stars not only act as your magic strength, but also your health, kinda like Mario's power-ups. They grant you better artillery, but the moment you get hit by an enemy, you end up losing a star. Get hit with 0 stars and you lose a life, restarting to an invisible checkpoint. You can also lose a life if you run out of time, but they tend to be pretty generous with the time limit, so it should not be much to worry about. So you can bump into enemies and take a spike to the foot as long as you have enough stars to take the hit. Not that it will be necessary since all enemies go down in one shot, though they mix it up by giving them unique ways to be taken down. A couple of examples can be as simple as the slugs, just 1 shot and they're out, to the pigs with the shield who is only open when you flip the gravity, leaving them open to attack for a short time, skeletons who hang on the floor when you flip the gravity, or even these one-eyed tentacle hentai who are invincible on the floor but are vulnerable as they slowly swap to the new floor, once the gravities change, this game's selling point. You do this by holding up on a D-pad and press A, or holding down on the D-pad and pressing A, depending if you're on the roof or the floor. You can even flip while in a jump, or fall, and I will say, thanks to this gimmick, it helps the game stand out a bit more since not only do you have to platform, using the swap gravity ability to be able to progress through the levels, but also need to use gravity to your advantage to deal with enemies and obstacles to reach the end of the stage. Even the bonus levels after every 3 levels are fun too. They're more akin to side-scrolling shooters like Proteus or Gradius. Though the flip mechanic also works here, to where you use it to mostly flip whether or not you are sitting on top of or under your broomstick, and where the stars will fall. Also, unlike Proteus or Gradius, these are very simple. Enemies fall gently or come from the right, but since they only die in one hit and the star mechanic works the same here, it's not much of an issue. You do have full movement, but that's about it. Even the gravity swap mechanic is barely utilized here, only really coming into effect for the final boss, where the only way to leave them open to damage is when they shoot out a green rock, which, unlike the red rocks that is shot, which travel in a straight line, the red rocks bounce on the bottom of the floor, meaning that you have to shoot it, and just before it hits the wall, you have to flip the gravity, which hits the boss, leaving them open for you to wail on them with your magic shots. Reminder, this is the only boss in the game, and even then using mechanics that are mostly not the main focus of the game, that being puzzle platforming. Not saying it's a bad one, but it doesn't leave a lasting impression. The same can be said about the later levels, specifically World 3, where they are very well designed levels, mind you, but they rank up in difficulty by placing spikes in a lot of places. It's almost ridiculous how many sections are just covered in spikes. I will also say that its length could also be polarizing considering how much people are asking for it, which for a small licensed title made by a third-party developer at its original market value would have been perfectly fine. However, with the current prices, this has become unacceptable. Hell, you could also just skip to the end of the game since it uses passwords. Not to say there isn't any value to the game. On the contrary, for a Game Boy Color game, its presentation is pretty stellar. It's been noted that it uses a similar engine to previous WayForward games such as Extreme Sport, the Sabrina Game Boy Color games, and would later on be used for Shantae, which shows since the animation for the enemies and character are pretty smooth and have a bit of personality to them for a Game Boy Color game, such as when the skeletons are flipped to their previous gravity to look around confused before continuing to roam around, or even the little victory animation when Wendy reaches the end of the level. Even the environments look pretty good, and are at least distinguishable from each world, and the platforming and puzzle solving are really fun. It's all very responsive, fair, and very fluid due to the very easy to learn mechanics with the level design complementing the unique gameplay. With all that said, is the game worth at least a look? I honestly think it is. It's a unique, charming game that, while short, makes the most of its gravity mechanics that is simple and easy to learn, and thus fun to use to reach the end of the different levels. It is honestly great Matt Bozon liked the idea enough that he would use it as an inspiration for Mighty Flip Chance later on because the mechanics and gameplay are really good. And I honestly think that it would be a fun mechanic to build on for a small indie game. With that said, ain't no way it's worth hundreds of dollars to own a physical copy. I got mine because it was cheap, I'm a fan of the devs' works, and wanted to check out some of their early games, and because I'm a dumbass who can't computer good. If you can find a copy for really cheap, then I'd say it's worth owning it, but if it's not possible, then I say emulate the game because while it may be short, it at least makes up for it for being a fun game. Speaking of, I guess I had to check on that giant house that landed in my backyard. I ain't gonna pay property tax for something that isn't mine. Fucking IRS leeches. Hello? Your home landed on my yard! Is anyone there? Are falling mansions covered by insurance? Hi there.
Did you just knock my home from the sky with your roof?
Maybe. I'm insured, though it's not the best provider. Have you ever heard of Wormswood?
Fucking bug!
Smarts.